Good evening, everyone. I'm Mr. Merrill. Among other things, I'm the one the students here would most like to have judge their POL. It's an in-joke. When Mr. McClanahan asked me to deliver this year's commencement address, I was reminded of a line from the movie Chinatown, where John Huston's character says, "Old buildings get respectable if they last long enough." But Matt, I'm not ready to be respectable. Nevertheless, here I am, which puts us, graduates, in a similar position. Because just as today marks my retirement, similarly, ready or not, at the conclusion of this ceremony, none of you will be high school students anymore. Who we are is about to change forever. It's the end, but it's also the beginning, which is probably why graduations are called commencement. When I graduated high school, I remember feeling a sudden sense of exhilaration that caught me by surprise. All I'd done was get up and go to school every day for 4 years, and now this happened. I hadn't done anything particularly remarkable. What was the big deal? But if you think about it, that's what life is. Little changes that happen daily, and then every once in a while, something big comes along, like a graduation, to remind you that you're moving on and you can't go back. Which is why it's so important to seize the moment. Because before you know it, here comes another door that's closing, and as soon as you go through it, you're about to leave something that you can't go back to and begin something new that you've never done before. It's scary and exciting at the same time, kind of like riding a roller coaster, and this is the point where you're at the top, right before the big plunge. What will I do now? Who do I listen to? How will I fit in? I suspect these are the elephants currently in the room. Lucky for you, you're holding 2 wild cards that will help you draw a winning hand. The first is that you've spent the last 4 years at High Tech LA rigorously learning how to think for yourselves and work cooperatively with others, guided by some of the best teachers and advisors you'll ever have. You're special, and you've been prepared for the challenges that face you ahead, and you're leaving here with uncommon abilities. Not just an education, but the power to keep learning and apply what you know to apply to your life and the lives of others. The second is that you get to go to college and spend the next 4 years discovering who you are and figuring out what you want to do. Ask yourself what makes you come alive, what you love doing, and start with that. Then look around and see what's needed, what your talent can provide, and jump at the chance to be of use. If you're lucky enough to know what you love and what you want to do, great. But what if you don't? What if you can't decide and you want it all? It's going to be a bit like falling in love. Some of you will recognize it right away. Others will need to play the field a bit. Either way, you can't lose. You're at the beginning of your life's story, which you get to write. How exciting. Which brings me to the villain in this story, fear. Like any good roller coaster, there has to be an element of fear. That's what makes it fun. How your ride turns out will depend on how much fun you make it or how scary you make it. It's good to have a little bit of both, but too much of one or the other, and you may not be happy with the results. Now, I'm not talking about fear of natural disasters or hungry wild animals, of known physical danger, but that other kind of fear, fear of the unknown, fear that shuts down action without any real explanation, the fear of making mistakes. The great Irish playwright George Bernard Shaw said, "Success covers a multitude of blunders, and a life spent making mistakes is not only more honorable, but more useful than a life spent doing nothing." Success is overrated. It often leads to the greatest failure, which is arrogance and pride. Failure can lead to the greatest success, which is humility, learning, and true originality. Success is the golden child, you don't need to worry about it. Failure needs to be nurtured. Back in the mid-'80s, I wasn't sure I could make a living as a photographer. In a moment of fear, disguised as practicality, I applied to UCLA's MBA program, hoping that a master's in business administration would be my ticket to a respectable future. When I didn't get in, I decided to do the next best thing. I joined a comedy improv group. This turned out to be a pivotal time for me. First, it's where I met my wife. And second, aside from showing me the importance of humor in one's life, I got some training in the skills of comedy improv, which would come in handy later. For example, one thing we were always told was to share the space. You're not the most important person up there. The success of the scene depends on everyone working together. This is something you've actually been doing here at High Tech LA with your group projects, valuing the ideas of others and learning to collaborate. Another was hold for the laughs, a simple but often neglected skill. When the audience laughs, the actors need to pause for a moment. Otherwise, the laughs get cut short. The laughs are the rewards. It's the whole reason you're there. Treasure the rewards that come from your efforts. But the most important was don't deny. In other words, say yes to what's happening in front of you. Saying yes reminds you to respect what the other person has created and deal with what's going on in the scene. To respond to something new you haven't planned for. And if you're afraid of making mistakes, you'll never be able to do this. As Stephen Colbert said, life is an improvisation. You have no idea what's going to happen next. You're mostly just making things up as you go along. Over the next few months, when you take off to wherever it is you're going next, you will face obstacles and at times be scared. The well-meaning adults around you will probably say, "Oh, don't worry, you'll be fine." It's not that we don't care, it's just that we don't really know either. Peek behind the curtain and you'll eventually realize that there are no grown-ups. We're all children in various stages of growing up. The trick is to keep pushing forward and reach out for help until you get the answers that you need. No one gets through it alone. Now, no commencement speech would be complete without some words of wisdom for navigating the future ahead. When Oprah spoke at Stanford, she said, "Trust your heart and success will come to you." When Arnold Schwarzenegger gave his at USC, he advised, "Marry a Kennedy." Here's what I suggest. Work hard. The harder you work, the more fun you'll have. Meet lots of people, say yes to many things. Don't whine, put a smile on your face, swallow your pride, and ask a lot of questions. And remember, everyone you meet has a harder life than you, so be kind, because in the end, it's the failures of kindness will be the only thing you come to regret. Being here today has given me the opportunity to look around and inside myself for something useful that I can share with you. And I'm extremely grateful to Matt and everyone here for giving me this chance. It's an honor to be standing in front of those who've helped you on your journey, your families and friends, everyone in your school and your communities, all the people who pushed you with their love and support, and to feel the pride and joy they are experiencing. Today is their day too. Years from now, when you look back at the twists and turns of your life, it will seem like what an incredible story. Each piece fit perfectly and led to the next. The truth is, when it's happening, in the middle of all the chaos, you're really just making the best decisions you can with the information available and then hoping for the best. For most of you, the choices you have aren't between life and death. It's more like this could be good and that could be good. With either, some doors will open and some will close. I hope for all of you a rich and varied life surrounded by people you trust and cherish. But wherever it takes you, don't forget, you'll always have those 2 wild cards up your sleeve. And remember to share the space, hold for the laughs, and say yes. And one more thing. be suspicious of anything respectable. Thank you. At this time, it is my pleasure to present the graduating class of 2018.